president pushing back on claims of a slow response in Puerto Rico.
We are sending great people to help.
The president did everything in a pace that they've never seen before, as far as him releasing money and releasing assets.
We will come back stronger than ever.
The president quintupling down again on his focus on the anthem and the flag.
We look at our American flag that hangs in all of our factories. We love our American flag.
Tom Price has resigned as President Trump's Health and Human Services Secretary. Price was under fire for his use of private flights for government and personal business.
If a cabinet member or any other member of this administration is going to waste taxpayer money, they're not going to have a place in the government anymore.
President Trump and Republican lawmakers say they're now focusing on their tax plan.
A giant, beautiful, massive, the biggest ever in our country, tax cut. And it will be rocket fuel for our economy.
58% of the people agree with the lovely Abby Huntsman saying it's a horrible song. 42% agree with yours truly saying it is an awesome song. Please go to my Twitter and weigh in. And it's what the people want to know.
The rest of us have never heard of the song. Yeah. And we were supposed to get breakfast. I tried to buy Dunkin' Donuts this morning, and then someone secretly went and got Starbucks instead. I'm kind of a Dunkin' Donuts guy.
You're still happy, though, because you're eating a sausage egg sandwich,
every
which
morning.
makes you very happy.
Actually,
we have no food segments on the show
said
today.
Tomorrow, he demanded food segments for tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need that. All right, some big news, though, coming out of Washington yesterday. Tom Price is out as Health and Human Services Secretary. Price resigning on Friday following the widespread criticism of his private plane trips, becoming the first Trump cabinet secretary to leave his administration.
Ellison Barber joins us live from D.C. with the details. Good morning, Ellison.
Good morning to all of you. Price is out of a job after days of public scrutiny and an internal investigation. Apologies on his part, and then a promise to pay back at least some of the money he used to fly in private jets. Less than 2 weeks ago, Politico reported on the now former secretary's use of private planes. They said he traveled on private jets at least 24 times since May, costing taxpayers over $300,000. And for most of those flights, there were other cheaper commercial options available. Price said he'd pay back the cost of his seat, around $52,000, but Politico found even more questionable flights, with Price reportedly costing taxpayers $500,000 because he flew in a military aircraft to Europe and Asia. It was official business, but past HHS secretaries took similar trips, and they usually flew commercial. President Trump called Price a good man, but said more than once he was disappointed. Here's the president yesterday.
Has Secretary Price offered to resign, sir?
No, but we'll see what happens later on.
Hours later, Price is out. The White House says he submitted a letter of resignation and the president accepted it. This man, Don Wright, is now the acting secretary of HHS. He was the deputy assistant secretary. There are also reportedly new rules. A memo sent out by White House budget director Mick Mulvaney says White House chief of staff John Kelly needs to approve travel before anyone gets on a government or chartered plane. Pete, Abby, Todd.
Thanks, Ellison.
Ellison, thank you.
Certainly a strong statement from the White House. We were sent here to do a job, not take advantage of these rules. Tom Price.
Well, nothing worse than the swamp, than someone in your administration spending over $1 million on private planes to get to meetings that you have to go to. I think it was, you said, a really strong statement from the president to say, I campaigned against the swamp. This is exactly what we don't need.
Especially because this media is going to pick anything they can pick at, and so you gotta be locked even tighter. And in this case, they stumbled on this, and here you have it.
Well, the president out this week talking about some of the things that he loves to talk about. Tax reform he's very passionate about, but also the American flag and this whole controversy with the NFL and kneeling for the national anthem. He took some time yesterday in Washington, D.C. to talk about why he loves the American flag and what it means to be an American today.
We want every American to know the dignity of work, the pride, the beautiful pride, getting a paycheck, the satisfaction of being told that was a job well done. We want every parent to be able to care for their children, and we want every child to know a home filled with love and a community filled with hope. That is the America we see when we look at our American flag that hangs in all of our factories, sails our oceans, and waves over our cities, towns, and fields. We love our American flag. The soul of a country is found in the people who make it a home.
So it's clear the NFL got politicized. Now other sports, which, let's face it, are politicized as well, unfortunately are trying to step out in front of the problem in some instances, and other instances trying to have their cake and eat it too. For example, NBA right now is trying to do exactly that. On the one hand, they sent out a memo from Adam Silver saying that players must stand for the national anthem. So they're trying to get out in front of this. They're trying to avoid the financial problems the NFL is running into. Then there's a but, and I'll let Pete take the but.
Well, but they also said they're going to suggest possible unity montages or unity ideas that teams can do instead of taking a knee for the national anthem. It actually came out from Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum. This is part of the statement that they sent out to the teams. He said, recommended an address by a player or coach to fans before the anthem, or a video featuring players or community leaders speaking about important issues and showing photos from past community events. You know, everybody out there, you've been to sports games, basketball games. They usually at a home game, they'll turn the lights off and you've got the screen and the speak. The last thing I want is a political message at my game of something that is controversial. So you're not kneeling for the national anthem, but you've got a player talking to me about social justice. That's not going to bode well either.
But it's certainly an improvement from kneeling during the national anthem, as we saw with the Green Bay Packers this week, locking arms in unity. I mean, the president even said this is something that he can get behind. Sure. I mean, what we're talking about here is, you know, people fighting for equality, and what they say is social injustice. If that is how they feel, as we've been talking about on this couch, then go do something about that. Kneeling during the national anthem is not going to get any of us anywhere. So if you want to go out in the community, you want to go mentor young people coming up, that is a great thing to do. I think a lot of people agree with you, Pete. I want to watch my football. I want to watch my basketball. I don't want any politics a part of that. It'll be interesting to see tonight because it's the preseason, the first for the Warriors, where, of course, Steph Curry is their star player, and he's gone back and forth with the president about going to the White House, not going to the White House. So we'll see what happens there.
I want to get to a point that Pete mentioned. When we were growing up, I don't know how big into sports you were, but I know Pete and I were out of our minds, okay? You dreamt of that moment, like you said, when they turned down the lights and you envision yourself being introduced. And it's just such a thing that as a young American male, I got fired up about hockey, football, basketball, baseball. You just want that introduction. Maybe not so much in baseball, but you want that introduction. Mm-hmm. And now what's this all about? This isn't that. This isn't like you're sitting in your home dreaming. This isn't your dream.
And the Cowboys, exactly. And the Cowboys tried to have their cake and eat it too, right? They knelt before the anthem and then stood up for the anthem, and they still got booed. Why are you injecting politics into our sports? Why are you suggesting unity protests? Go do your unity protests on the other 6 days a week if you want to. Keep it off the field. You know, I'm a Minnesota sports fan. I know you guys are from different states. I don't want to know what Joe Mauer thinks about politics, or Stephon Diggs from the Vikings, or Andrew Wiggins from the Minnesota Timberwolves. Don't care. If you can make a jump shot, I love you. If you're a Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. And how have we lost? You know, Michael Jordan famously said, Republicans buy sneakers too. It's exactly true. And the president is simply saying, we honor our country before these sporting events because we love our country and we appreciate it. Take your protests elsewhere. The NFL's taken hits on their ratings. The other sports will as well. The NBA knows that, and that's why they tried to get out front of it. I just don't know how these unity montages.
Well, you're right, because what speaks louder than anything is money, is advertisers, is people watching the games, and the NFL owners and the coaches realize this is turning into a much bigger deal. And they want it to be just about the sport itself. So I imagine there were conversations going on saying, how much do we pay you guys? How much do we pay you a year to do this job? We got to move on from this. We got to find a way to stop making this the headline.
There's also a growing movement afoot to boycott Veterans Day weekend of the NFL. So
you tweeted that yesterday,
Sunday, I believe it's November 12th, that weekend, a lot of vets, a lot of military people on the grassroots saying, turn it off, don't go. If the NFL doesn't start to hold a policy if you stand for the anthem, then why should fans spend the money, be a part of it? And you could really see a flashpoint there on November 12th if people follow through and say, this one weekend, we're going to sit it out because you won't stand for the anthem.
Wow.
Well, guys, there's a group there in St. Louis that really does not agree with us. And so they had a banner that says, no justice, no baseball. They unfurled it at the St. Louis Cardinals game there, of course, in St. Louis. There it is right there. It's a large banner, obviously obstructing the view of a number of individuals, and we want you to hear the chant as they unfurled that banner.
No justice, no baseball. No justice, no baseball. No justice, no baseball. No justice, no baseball.
You can hear the booing there in the background. Look, they have every right to do that. It's free speech. It's what makes this country great. But do you know how much money most of these people spend on these season tickets, and they wait all year long to go to these games? If you guys have been talking about, we love these sport games. I mean, whether you're watching on TV or spending the money to go, you don't want to sit there and be drowned out by the person next to you with this, right?
The only yelling you want to hear is, cold beer here, cold beer. You know, that's all I want to hear in my ear at the baseball stadium.
Peanuts.
No justice, no baseball. That video goes on for 30 minutes. We do have rights in this country, but that's a private ballpark. Those owners can also get those fans kicked out in any way that they want. Remember that. And again, who wants to see that? Take it somewhere else. And why do you think it's effective? You think that's advancing the national conversation?
You got booed by everybody in
You're
there.
hurting your own cause.
Yeah. We want to hear what you think. Email us, friends@foxnews.com. We've already gotten a few awesome emails in. We want to hear more.
Yeah, and we got some other headlines I want to bring you this morning as well. It is a race against time as victims in Puerto Rico are struggling to survive. It's just heartbreaking what's happening there. 1,400 more National Guard troops are heading there this weekend, bringing the total to 6,000. The ravaged island bracing for another 1 to 3 inches of rain after being battered already by 2 hurricanes. The 101st Airborne Division is transporting medical teams to key hospitals that are in need. President Trump says big decisions will have to be made rebuilding that island. The president is expected to visit Puerto Rico next week on Tuesday. We'll follow that closely. And a police officer murdered in an ambush. 29-year-old Detective Kristen Hearn, seen right there, shot and killed while responding to a suspicious vehicle call in Georgia. This man and woman coming out of the woods, approaching the officers. The man opening fire, killing Detective Hearn and injuring the other officer, David Goodrich. Detective Hearn leaves behind a husband and a 3-year-old son. And O.J. Simpson wants to go to Florida once he gets out of prison, but Florida says they don't want him. The state attorney general is sending a letter to the Florida Department of Corrections instructing them to tell Nevada authorities that Florida objects to Simpson serving his parole there. The state is where Simpson's financial team has been shielding his assets. The Juice was convicted of robbery and kidnapping in Nevada back in 2008. He could walk free as early as Monday.
Yep, there you have it, the story that never ends. All right, now to a Fox News alert. A race against time to help millions of people in Puerto Rico. President Trump sending in more resources as we speak. He's heading there on Tuesday as well. Our own Geraldo Rivera is on the ground seeing the crisis unfold firsthand, and he joins us live next.
And this has got to be the talker of the day, right? She made headlines for rejecting book donations from the First Lady because apparently Dr. Seuss books are racist.
Look at that sad face.
Yep. So how does she explain her Cat in the Hat costume? There it is right there. The height of hypocrisy. Just ahead.
Snuggling Dr. Seuss. Cat in the Hat.
So warm. What a safe space. We are back with a Fox News alert. Puerto Rico is bracing for even more rain as victims are struggling to survive after being battered by 2 hurricanes in a row.
President Trump sending 1,400 additional National Guard troops this weekend, bringing the total now to 6,000.
Fox News roaming correspondent at large Geraldo Rivera live for us in San Juan. Geraldo, good morning.
Hi, Todd, Abby, and Pete. You know, it's very difficult for people who are not here in Puerto Rico to understand the extent of what happened here with first Hurricane Irma and then Hurricane Maria, a historic storm coming ashore. I've covered natural disasters for half a century as I stand here in Old San Juan in front of some of the very common wreckage that's on every single block in this historic old city. I've covered earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. I've chased hurricanes for all that time. I can say with reasonable certainty that in modern history, there has never been a natural disaster that has so negatively impacted so many people. Remember, Puerto Rico is an island of 3.4 million. They are all without power. They are half of them without water. They have to stand on line 6-8 hours to get gasoline. Food is being imported because the agricultural crop has been entirely wiped out. Mother Nature dealt Puerto Rico a very cruel blow. But I have to say, and it pains me to say this, that the negligence and the incompetence of man added to the suffering. The awful irony is that there's absolutely nothing wrong with the power plants that supply electricity to this island. Behind me is the Aguirre Power Complex. It supplies nearly half the power Puerto Rico needs. The plant was virtually unscathed by the storms. The problem is these transmission lines. On virtually every street in Puerto Rico, they are down. This is what's preventing electrical power from reaching the 3.4 million people of Puerto Rico. Unreliable at the best of times and plagued by an inept and corrupt management, Puerto Rico's electrical grid is suspect in the best of times. Now, because of Hurricane Maria, it is absolutely obliterated. These people will be without power indefinitely. Puerto Rico is back in the dark ages. Now, there is some, I know you talked about the storms that are still coming, the last thing Puerto Rico needs. But help really is on the way. The president has mobilized the entire fleet by getting rid of the Jones Act. Look out there, look out and feel good about the fact that there are now ships on the horizon steaming. This is a live shot in Old San Juan. These vessels are coming into the port of San Juan, bearing much needed assets for the beleaguered people here. Hopefully, aside from obviously food and water and so forth, they are bringing telephone poles. They are bringing the kind of equipment needed to bring the infrastructure back online for the 3.4 million people of our fellow citizens who have been so negatively impacted. So I see, just as I look around, at least 4 vessels on the horizon, 4 loaded vessels. So amidst the ruins and amidst the suffering and amidst the misery, some good news is sailing over the horizon. Back to you in New York.
That is good news. Anything that can be delivered there. Geraldo, stay safe. Thanks for the great reporting.
And great work out there.
Checking in with you for sure.
Thank you so much. That is a powerful shot. I mean, as Geraldo said, how much that area is needing all that.
Yeah, from the power lines to those cargo ships. And the president is up and tweeting about it this morning. We're going to bring some of those tweets to you shortly.
Meantime, the numbers are in. Football fans turning their backs on the NFL thanks to that kneeling controversy. Legendary football coach Lou Holtz weighs in. He's coming up next. 23 minutes after the hour now, and some quick headlines. The man accused in a shooting at a Tennessee church may have acted in revenge. The Associated Press reporting Emmanuel Sampson left a note outside the church referencing Dylan Roof before killing one person and injuring 6 others. Roof, as you recall, was sentenced to death for killing 9 black worshipers at a South Carolina church back in 2015. And one of 2 15-year-olds charged in the stabbing of their friend to impress the fictional character Slender Man will plead guilty to avoid prison time. Morgan Geyser will instead go to a state mental hospital under the agreement. It all comes after a jury found the other teen, Anissa Wire, mentally ill at the time of the crime. Pete, over to you.
Well, NFL approval ratings are plummeting this week in the wake of pro players protesting our national anthem. So when will these teams realize that their political stunts are damaging the entire brand that they're benefiting from right now? Here to react is legendary college football coach Lou Holtz. Coach, thanks for joining us this morning. When I looked at your viewpoint, I've heard you comment on it a little bit. You talk about the dynamics in the locker room. And as a coach, you don't know of a coach that would want this type of thing poisoning the locker room. Talk about that.
Well, first of all, the owners made an awful lot of money because they tried to satisfy the customers and make a profit. In the NFL, all they want to do is win and make a profit. And you cannot win if the locker room is not cohesive together. In college, you have them the whole day, in the dorm, in the classroom, in study hall. In the pros, you're only together before practice and after practice. If you don't have a locker room that's joined with one common cause, you're going to have problems. So what the owners did when somebody from the far left said, hey, you need to have this disrespect for the national anthem, it created a division in the locker room. They're trying to do it. Now, they're smart enough. They want to win, but sometimes there's more important things than winning, and showing respect for the flag is certainly one of them, Pete.
So do you think, Coach, that more coaches should take that stance and say, hey, get the politics out. I want my players standing for the anthem, and they will. And just telling the players that, hey, take politics elsewhere, out of the locker room.
Absolutely. The first thing I told the football team every fall, we'll not use our football team to promote any cause, whether it be abortion, gay rights, gun laws. We're here to promote this university, and you're not going to bring girlfriends. You aren't going to bring a slogan. You aren't going to bring a cause onto our football team. Many years ago, people say, what's the difference between people today and 40 years ago when I was younger? Is number one, today everybody wants to talk about the rights and privileges. 40 years ago, people talked about their obligation and responsibility. And 40 years ago, you were taught one thing at the home, and it was reinforced in the school, and it's not taught as well today and not reinforced in school, and that is respect. Respect for your parents, respect for teachers, respect for elderly, respect for women, respect for law.
And in this
you
case,
cannot show...
And in this case, respect for your country. Indeed.
Absolutely. It goes. See, you cannot respect other people if you don't have self-respect for yourself. And my feeling always is, if you can teach somebody to be respectful of himself, to have a pride that he feels good about himself or what he's doing with his life, the decisions he's making, he's going to respect other people. And I know many of these owners, coaches, and NFL players love our service people, love this country. I've been to Korea, Iraq, Afghanistan, and I've seen them there. It's the fact that a few people have distracted this whole thing and consequently it's created a division in the locker room. They tried to solve it. They can't. Now I think you're going to see what happens in the NBA. And I'm proud to say Byron Spruell, an Afro-American, great young man, a captain at Notre Dame, is president of the NBA and also on the board of trustees at Notre Dame. No small feat.
Absolutely. You know a lot more about this than people think. You were also an officer in the military, so this is quite personal for you as well. Thank you for making great football for so long, but also for your service to this country. Appreciate it, Lou.
Thank you for having me, Pete.
All right, great stuff. That's a bucket list item, interviewing Lou Holtz, I got to say. Anyway, coming up, the president up and tweeting this morning saying the left-wing media is trying to politicize the crisis in Puerto Rico instead of focusing on the recovery efforts. We'll discuss that ahead. Plus, she made headlines for rejecting book donations from the First Lady because apparently that sad face is she's saying Dr. Seuss books are racist. So how does she explain her Cat in the Hat costume just a year or two earlier? Is that not the height of hypocrisy? We'll discuss it next.
Story all morning long. A librarian who mocks Melania Trump's Dr. Seuss book donation as racist propaganda. Well, new pictures just surfaced showing her wearing, get this, a racist propaganda, a Cat in the Hat costume. She looks as happy as she could ever be.
Oh, my goodness. So something changed between that moment when she was Miss Cat in the Hat. In fact, she made, it said in one of the articles, green eggs and ham for her kids because she's a teacher, so she wore that outfit. But this was her just a couple of days ago making the sad face when she got a free book from the First Lady as part of a reading initiative. Now, suddenly, the words inside that Dr. Seuss book are racist.
One of the funniest and most insightful individuals we have here on the Fox News channel is Mark Steyn. And, of course, he weighed in on this. Take it away, Mark.
In the space of about 20 minutes, we've gone from the Confederate flag is racist to the Star-Spangled Banner is racist. We've gone from General Lee is racist to Dr. Seuss is racist. I looked up the piece she referenced in the Journal of Social Justice Librarians, or whatever it is, and it is incredibly moronic. The piece argues that the Cat in the Hat's bow tie is meant to be an evocation of 19th century racist minstrel shows. Now, just off the top of my head, cartoon characters who wear bow ties, Porky Pig, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Huckleberry Hound. Yogi Bear doesn't wear a bow. He wears a necktie like me, but his boy sidekick Boo Boo the Bear wears a bow tie. That's nothing to do with minstrel shows. We are making ourselves a society too stupid to survive.
How happy was Tucker?
Tucker's face is everything, and I think speaks for all of us right now. Hey, if you were going to say that green eggs and ham or Cat in the Hat is racist propaganda, you probably want to make sure you don't have any photos floating around of you literally snuggling the Cat in the Hat and Dr. Seuss with a big smile on your face. It takes away any credibility you might normally have.
Would she now admit that then she was a former racist? Because that teacher would have to admit that, right? I used to be racist, now I'm not anymore? I mean, seriously, where does the logic end and start?
I just love that line about Yogi Bear doesn't wear a bow tie. He wears a necktie like me, but his sidekick Boo Boo wears a bow tie. This is where we are in this country. We have to invoke cartoon characters to get messages across.
Hey, Boo Boo. Hey, boo-boo.
Hey, boo-boo.
Yeah.
Hey,
Guess
boo-boo.
what? I'm still going to read My Daughter Green and Eggs and
As
Ham.
you
One of my
should.
favorite
And,
books.
Oh, The Places You'll Go. I think that was the thing that set off this whole controversy. Whereas everybody, when they graduate high school, they get a copy of Oh, the Places You'll Go. I've done Dr. Seuss days in local schools. I read that to the kids. You explain the life lessons of how things aren't always going to go the way you want, but you have to pick yourself up and get back in the race. Unbelievable that we've gotten here.
You too, racist.
All right, turning now to some other headlines, some serious ones we're following closely this morning. A rock climber is airlifted after falling in Yosemite Park, marking the third incident this week. Right now, it's unclear how far the climber fell or what their current condition is. Friday's injury comes after 2 consecutive days of rock slides at the national park in California. On Wednesday, one person died after a large rock fell. Then a second massive rock fell and hit the park on Thursday. And for the first time, the Trump administration is calling the mysterious health ailments in Cuba attacks. At least 21 diplomats at the American embassy in Havana have been affected, reporting symptoms of hearing loss, dizziness, and headaches. The State Department now pulling more than half of its diplomats from the country and sending Americans a travel warning. Still unclear who is behind those attacks. And this proud conservative is standing up after being placed on an LGBTQ hate list. The Southern Poverty Law Center saying Hannah Schur Locker made the list because she appeared on the Family Research Council Radio, a station that supports traditional family values.
They're trying to silence me, as for years they've been trying to silence conservatives. It's a bully tactic, and what I find ironic about this is of the 917 groups they deem hateful, there's not a single message of Antifa, Resist, By Any Means Necessary, which are all domestic terrorist organizations.
Hannah wrote about her experience for the Fox News website. She says the bullying tactics against conservatives, they need to stop. And imagine traveling anywhere on Earth in under an hour. That would be amazing. That's exactly what SpaceX CEO Elon Musk is proposing while unveiling new plans to travel to the moon and Mars. Musk also promised to use that same implementary rocket system for long-distance travel right here on Earth. Musk claims that it would allow people to make trips to most major cities, get this, in under 30 minutes and for the same price as an economy travel ticket. Could you imagine?
That last part strikes me as the rub. Will it really cost the same as an economy ticket?
If it's subsidized by the government, yeah.
What I still can't get over, I mean, Amtrak is how much money, and it still takes almost 3 hours to get from New York to D.C.
Yeah.
Also subsidized by the government.
Yeah.
As the president has talked about a lot, our infrastructure is behind the curve here. All right. Well, we're turning to a Fox News alert. Here's a live look in Puerto Rico where ships can be seen bringing much-needed supplies to the hard-hit island.
People there now bracing for even more rain after being battered by 2 hurricanes.
Rick Reichmuth keeping an eye on what the situation is right there. Rick, what do we see?
Well, and a lot of the hard part is once the supplies get there, then you have to be able to get it out across the island. And so that is where the rain coming in today certainly is going to cause some of the problems. There's been a disturbance here. Don't think we're looking at any chance of tropical development of it, but it is hurricane season. The water is very warm, and that increases the moisture here. So you take a look at all of these clouds. That's moving in towards Puerto Rico right now. We're going to see some pretty significant rain. And in some spots, I think over the next couple of days, we might be seeing some maybe 4 to 6 inches of rain. And so that's certainly some bad news. We haven't talked much about the continental 48 in quite a while with all of the tropical activity going on. Abby keeps on hinting that it feels like fall out here. It does. A cold front has moved through and really dropped temperatures down, say, to around North Georgia, where temperatures are a little bit cooler than they have been. Florida, you're still remaining very warm, and you're going to continue to remain very humid. There's another little tropical kind of area that we're watching here across Florida. Expect to see some more moisture, and across parts of New Mexico, some flooding today. But overall, we're going to be looking at a temperature trend, at least for a couple of days, a little cooler here. Don't get used to it. Some warmer temperatures are going to move back in towards parts of the east, guys.
Really, I was just getting excited to make my famous chili.
Oh,
but it's going to get warm again.
Now, too. Please.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'll bring it in for all of you.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you, Rick.
Appreciate it. Well, the president up early this morning and tweeting about Puerto Rico and pushing back on critics and talking about the effort going on there. Here's a few of the tweets the president has just put out. He said, the mayor of San Juan, who was very complimentary only a few days ago, has now been told by the Democrats that you must be nasty to Trump.
Here's another one. Such poor leadership ability by the mayor of San Juan and others in Puerto Rico who are not able to get their workers to help. They want everything to be done for them when it should be a community effort. 10,000 federal workers now on island doing a fantastic job.
The fake news networks are working overtime in Puerto Rico, doing their best to take the spirit away from our soldiers and first responders. shame. And we have to distinguish the president right there in those tweets is referencing the mayor of Puerto Rico. Yeah. There's also a governor there in Puerto Rico that has been extremely complimentary.
The mayor of San Juan.
Mayor of San Juan, correct.
Yeah, and he's saying, hey, just a couple days ago they were complimentary. Now they've flipped the script. And he's getting out front of what the left will try to do, and the opposition party, the so-called mainstream media, the fake news, they're going to try to paint, they want this to be his next Katrina. And they want this to be a scandal that goes on and on and on. We don't know everything of what's going on the ground there. But he's saying, no, you don't get to start that narrative. You don't get to start a new Russia or a new Charlottesville. I care about the people of Puerto Rico. We're doubling down on our effort there, and we're working hard on it. But again, we're covering the story. We don't know exactly what's happening on the island. They have to be vigilant. But he's getting out front of that.
Far too early to start politicizing this. I mean, our own Geraldo Rivera, who's done a fabulous job on the ground, that is where the heart of the story needs to be, giving us a sense of what's going on that ground and how we can be most helpful here in the U.S. Well, the president's going to be there on Tuesday, and I think seeing it firsthand is going to give him a whole new perspective of just how sad that situation is.
All right, well, another attempt to repeal and replace Obamacare, dead on arrival. Does it prove that the Republican establishment actually wants the Trump administration to fail? We're going to take a closer look ahead.
And welcome back. Well, Rush Limbaugh sounding off on the Washington establishment, saying in an exclusive interview with Hannity that they will do whatever it takes to block President Trump from fixing what is broken. Take a listen.
Trump would never be admitted in this club, no matter what he did. These guys have been running the country. It's donors, it's think tanks, it's the whole Washington media, the whole establishment. Trump's an outsider. They have been managing the country, ruling the country for however many decades. They can't afford for an outsider neophyte to come in and redo everything, fix things in 3 months, fix things in a year, show that it can be done, show that an outsider can do it, show that what they say can't be done can be done.
So is the establishment blocking the president's agenda? Here to weigh in is Fox News political analyst Gianno Caldwell. Gianno, thanks for joining us this morning. So is Rush Limbaugh right?
I think he is. I mean, President Trump from the very beginning was a disruptor. He was an individual who didn't capitulate to the norms of any particular candidate. That's why a lot of folks, like the media, thought that he wasn't going to be a candidate that wins. They didn't take him seriously. They invited him on because he was good for ratings, but they had no expectation of us being where we are right now. So with that being the case, translating to the establishment, you got a lot of folks in D.C. who are upset, and I talked to a lot of these elected officials on Capitol Hill, Mitch McConnell being one who really does not like Trump at all. I would find it hard to believe that if you dislike someone or detest someone to a high degree, it would be hard for you to want to see them succeed or even help in getting something done.
Yeah, but you know, Gianno, people that are even more upset are the American people, the voters, who feel like the establishment in Washington, D.C. have had more than enough opportunities to prove they can get something done, most recently just health care, and they have proven they cannot do that. So what happens when the one thing they care about the most is winning re-election, and they don't have the support they need and may need the president to help them get through the finish line?
Well, you know what? When President Trump came down an escalator at Trump Tower and announced his presidency run, he said the big lie was Obamacare. And what we're seeing now, the big lie was repeal and replace Obamacare. Right. And all we need is Congress, Republicans in a majority, because this is disappointing. It's honestly frustrating and disgusting that we cannot have a Republican Party that's in the majority that will actually get something done on health care. It's a shame that President Trump has to grasp for straws via executive orders to try to get some incremental changes when we have a majority in Congress. I'm disappointed, and I'm pretty sure that the American people will show their frustration when it comes to the ballot box if Republicans don't get anything done.
Well, Gina, let me ask you this. How long does, quote unquote, the establishment last? Because you go on to the American people, nobody likes Washington. Nobody roots for Washington. They root for change that will help them. Nobody's got like a fathead poster of Mitch McConnell in their house. You know what I mean? So how long can the establishment be the establishment when you have a guy like Trump who's trying to mix it up?
Well, let's look at the history. We saw when Republicans really got emboldened and somewhat lazy, we saw the Tea Party sprang up, and they changed the entire dynamic of Washington, D.C. We see that there was frustration with the Obama administration, as it rightfully so, and Republicans continue to say, look, give us the majority, give us the White House, we're going to make X, Y, Z happen. President Trump has been trying, and I can be honest about that. He's been someone who's tried to get some things done, especially his policy positions, but he can't do it alone. Yeah. So what's going to happen is you got these outsider candidates that are looking to run. They're looking to be the change agents, and just more of those folks are signed up to be change agents. And the folks that are currently sitting in those seats will get voted out. I mean, that's simply how it goes. And we'll get more folks in support of President Trump's agenda, and hopefully at that particular point in time be able to get something done on behalf of the American people.
Well, Giano, you officially been voted in. You are now part of the Fox family. We are thrilled to have you and your perspective. So congratulations. We're happy to have you.
Thank you so much.
All right. President Trump now says he's happy with the way his teams handled the teams this week, like the Packers who played two nights ago, how they handled the kneeling controversy during the Thursday night football game. Does that mean he can claim victory this morning? Iraq and Afghanistan war vet turned Congressman Duncan Hunter joins us live on that ahead.
And Will and Grace returns for the first time in a decade. And, of course, they wasted no time in tearing into our president.
Wait, it could be a trap.
All right, let's start. Karen, hand me that curtain swatch. I need to make sure it works with his coloring.
But this morning, even their fans are outraged. Did they go too far? We asked that question.